Now available in paperback and Kindle, Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Learn how to avoid predatory females like Instagram models and e-girls in their virtual con games with Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Get your copy of Stop Simping in Cyberspace in paperback and Kindle today. One of my viewers wanted to know if being friends with someone online never works, and is it still safe to make good friends in public places? Now, this viewer is someone who's going to a college, and they had to end a online friendship with a classmate due to arguing about personal issues after they had several back and forth with each other online, and this viewer just decided to end that relationship. Well, when it comes to online relationships, oftentimes this is sadly what happens, because when people are online, you're not really dealing with an actual person. No, oftentimes what you're dealing with is a persona that person creates online to represent themselves. Now, I go in depth on this in two of my books, Stop Simping in Cyberspace and The Woman Crisis, and in both of those books I talk about how people create online personas to represent what they want to be the ideal of themselves. However, oftentimes because it's a representation of their ideal, whenever they run into a real person, what happens is they start to have issues because they start to reveal the real person who they are. And as they reveal the real person who they are, what this does is basically lead to that person who they were interacting with becoming alienated, and that person wanting to go out and end the friendship because they never really knew that person at all. No, they did not know that person at all, because what they were seeing was just the persona the person was presenting online to represent themselves. And people do this all the time because the internet provides them with anonymity, and that anonymity allows them to be anonymous. And since they can be anonymous and not be a real person that meets a person face to face, what that person does is start to create a persona that represents all the ideas they imagine themselves to be. And as they present this persona that represents what they imagine themselves to be, what people see is the persona they're presenting and not the real person. And they really can't assess the real person because all you're seeing are the words that they're typing online and a picture they put up on screen. And that picture may not even be a real person. No, it could possibly be a stock photo or some photo from another time. This is what happens to a lot of people in online dating. They wind up getting catfished by people who put up pictures of themselves when they were younger, or putting up pictures of someone who they aren't at all. And what we do is we see what the person is presenting of themselves online. We don't really get to know the real person. No, we get to know what they tell us about themselves and tell us about what they're doing, but we really don't get that fair assessment of who they really are. No, we can't get that from emails that go back and forth with each other. No, you can't really get that from what somebody writes, because sometimes people will go out here and again write in the voice of the persona, but really won't express who they are to you at all. No, when it comes down to a lot of people, what they will do is again go out here and show the persona they are, and oftentimes that facade will wind up getting cracked when that person starts to disagree with another person, like in the case of what's happened here with this viewer. What happened is they possibly had a disagreement with this person, and as they had this disagreement with this person, what happened was that instead of the online persona coming out, the real person started coming out, and as the real person started to come out, they started to show who they really were, and as they showed who they really were, this is where the friendship started to deteriorate between the viewer and the person, and started to deteriorate because she was starting to see the real person as related to who they really were, as the online persona facade started to fall off. And this is where they had this falling out with each other, after they argued about several issues. This is what happens to a lot of people online, because people at 1 minute think you know someone because of what they're telling you about themselves. However, they show a different side of themselves when that person sometimes starts to get comfortable as related to being disrespectful. And there's a reason why this person is online looking for friends. A lot of times people go online looking for friends because they really have poor social and interpersonal skills. And since they have poor social and interpersonal skills, they hope to hide it with the veneer of anonymity online. Unfortunately, what happens with a lot of people is that they start showing who they really are. And as they show who they really are, this is where people start to say, okay, this person really has some issues and I really need to cut off all contact with them. And instead of looking to engage that person, what they do is look to block that person, or go out here and put their email in the spam folder so that they cannot deal with this person again. This is what happens to a lot of people who have internet friends online. And again, having friends online oftentimes just doesn't work, because the only way to really have friends is to actually go and meet people face to face and go talk to people face to face. This is what I advise people to do in the Stop Simping in Cyberspace book. At the conclusion of the book, I try to tell them, if you want to meet women, you've got to go outside and go talk to real women, not go out to these online platforms, because usually what's online are just toxic people who do not know how to function, and they put up a veneer and a persona to make it look like they're something that they're not. And usually what happens with people is they wind up getting jammed up when they get involved with people like that. So I always advise people to go out here and meet people face to face as related to relationships, because there you can make a fair assessment of a person when you're standing in their presence. There is where you can start to, again, feel their spiritual energy and feel their vibe. And that's something that you have to do on an instinctive level, because you can't do that online. You can't really feel a person's vibe as related to the words that they put on or the face you see in a video. No, you need to, again, be face to face with a person to really assess who they are. You really need to be face to face so that you can feel that energy or feel that vibe, because whenever I was in the presence of people on jobs, sometimes I could feel the energy of people and feel, okay, this guy is feeling real creepy. I really don't want to deal with that dude because I'm just feeling something funny about him on an instinctive level. Or you can feel, it's like, okay, this person is kind of cool. They got some cool energy about them. And again, that's one way of reading a person. The other way you can read a person is to look at their facial expressions and their body language. That's something you can do face to face. I mean, you really can't do it on screen because, again, people put on online personas, but when you are face to face with someone, you can really get a good sense of who they are. You can get a good sense of what they're about and their whole presence and energy. Again, this is why you really want to make friends with real people in real situations, and you really want to go face to face in public places to go meet people. You really want to go face to face because, again, this is the way you can go out here and make a assessment of someone as related to what they're presenting. And a lot of times you can read through people who, again, put on facades and veneers and see right through the things that they're saying if you're a critical thinker. And this is why I feel it's better to go make friends with people in the real world where you can talk to real people. Now, the viewer wants to know, is it still safe to make good friends face to face in public places? Yes, it's always been safe to make face to face friendships in public places, because there is where you can start to feel an actual connection to an actual person. And again, you two can share energy. And again, people who are good people, you're going to, again, get a good sense of who they are. And sometimes you will get a good sense of who they are if you have a good sense of yourself. If you have a really good sense of who you really are, then you will understand who is gravitating towards you. And one of the things that I learned is that there's ways to change your energy. I learned that way back when I was a teenager, when I asked God to change my life. Again, you can stop attracting toxic people to you by, again, going to God and then having Him make changes in you and then changing what you're all about. And toxic people will not want to have anything to do with you, especially if you have positive energy or strong energy. They don't want anything to do with you because misery loves company and misery loves being around other miserable people. And when you have positive energy, toxic people don't want to be around you, but positive people want to be around you. And that's what happens when you have positive energy. And again, it's better to meet people in person because you can get a sense of who is gravitating towards you, and that gives you a sense of your personal energy. It gives you a good sense of who's attracting to you, because if you're attracting toxic people to you, then you have to look at what who the epicenter is, because again, healthy people attract healthy people to themselves. Regular people attract regular people to themselves, and toxic people attract toxic people to themselves. And again, if a person is toxic, again, the best thing for you to do is not to have anything to deal with them anymore, and basically end any sort of friendship that doesn't work, whether it be online or real life, because life is too short and time is too precious to waste it out here, being out here, again, dealing with people who you're having issues with. And again, when it comes down to this whole situation, I always prefer friendships with real people in the real world, because the people who are the most important to us, again, are the real people in the real world. Yes, it's nice to have people online that you talk to and have friendships and acquaintances with, but there's nothing like a real relationship with a real person. And when it comes down to online relationships, again, those friendships really don't work because you're really not seeing a person face to face to gauge their facial expressions, gauge their body language. All you're seeing are responses on a keyboard, or seeing a person in a video screen. You're not really seeing a real person. You're not spending time with a real person. You're not interacting with a real person. And the whole thing is, the most important people in our lives are the real people that we deal with. And again, the real people who we deal with in our local areas should be more important, as I see it, because I find it sad that people will have lots of friends online, but if you go into their local neighborhood, they don't even know who half the people in that neighborhood are. They don't even know who their next door neighbors are. And that's what's really sad about this modern day internet, is that yes, people will have friends online, but they don't really connect with the real people in the real world. And that's what I see sadly what happens to a lot of young children. They don't have real friendships with real people. They have a lot of people they talk to online, but the thing is, you really need to develop those interpersonal skills and social skills to be able to make friendships and connections with people in real places, because real people, again, allow us to have real relationships with real people who show us who they are based on their values and their character, and we can read that person based on what they're presenting to us as related to the actions that define their character, because people show us who they are. They don't tell us who they are. That's another disadvantage of people going on the internet. People will tell you that there's something, and sometimes 99% of the time that they're not. But a lot of times when a person is with you, they are showing you who they are. And what happens to destroy a lot of internet friendships is people, again, show who they are, not understanding that, yeah, you can write anything or say anything on a screen, but the whole thing is, when you show your character, this is what turns people off. When you show who you really are, this is what alienates people. And sadly, this is what happened to the viewer. What happened to the viewer is they wound up being shown a side of a person that they did not like. And as they were shown this side of this person, they basically saw who they really are. And that's what happens to a lot of online relationships, whether they be friendships or dating. What happens is that people see the real person, and they see why this person is online. this person is online because they don't know how to have relationships with real people, because real people who have it together will be out in the real world having relationships with real people where they will have connections with them and spend more time with them. And you'll want to spend more time with real people than sitting in front of a screen. That's something, again, if I had a full-time job, I wouldn't really be here all the time. No, if I had a full-time job, I would basically be doing maybe one YouTube video a week and then moving on to do other things like taking care of other business. No, I wouldn't be spending a lot of time here online. Again, this is what happens again sometimes, again, when you have things going on. Again, most of the people who are online, again, and they have so much time, there's something, again, they have something going on. But the whole thing is that when you're online, a lot of time these people, again, a lot of them, they put up these personas and these facades and veneers, and again, people start to see right through them once they start to get to know that person. And once they get to know that person, they see a person they really don't really want to know, because this person shows them their true colors and shows them the monster they truly are. And that's what happens, again, with a lot of online relationships. Now, I know some people have had long-term online relationships and online friendships and online acquaintances, but a lot of times, again, being friends with people is something that is done on a personal level. It's done with people, again, who know each other personally and know each other face to face. That's what's known as related to things, because when it comes down to online things, we imagine what someone is like, but you don't know what someone is like until you actually get to know a real person. It's only when you get to know a real person that you see the real person in front of you. And that's the one mistake that a lot of people make as related to having relationships online, whether it be friendships or dating. They don't really know that person, because all you know is what you're being told, not what you're being shown. And that's why I always believe that, again, friendships are something that is done face to face in the real world with real people, and not something you can do sitting in front of a computer. No, sitting in front of a computer is good for business transactions or acquaintances, and maybe sometimes you can do things, but the whole thing is, I don't see it as a primary relationship. No, relationships are things we do face to face, and things that work better face to face, because it's always good to meet people face to face in public places. Always good to be like that, because again, then you can get a good sense of who somebody is, and get that sense of who somebody is before you enter in a relationship that could possibly be real toxic. I mean, the thing that is, when you get to know a person in the real world, you get an instant sense of who they are. And once you get that instant sense, you know what you're dealing with, and you know whether you want to continue pursuing that relationship or you want to charge that person to the game. Now, this was a video requested by one of my viewers, and if you want to request a video, you can drop a donation for a minimum of $15 to the PayPal or the Cash App by clicking the link in the description box. And if I know something about that subject, I will make that video for you. And if you want to pick up some of my books as related to the internet, you can pick up Stop Simping in Cyberspace on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find Stop Simping in Cyberspace at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to pick up my other book, The Woman Crisis, you can find it at all those online booksellers I mentioned. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Coming to paperback and e-readers, The Steam Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed, all-new Esteem series adventure. Pre-order your copy of Esteem Season of the Witch Girl at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.